Disney is about to make a major change to a classic ride that's going to impact Disneyland and Magic Kingdom forever. But what exactly is going to change? What's staying the same? And what are we hoping changes in the future? Find out today here on DFB Guide. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. Back in June 2020, we learned that Splash Mountain would be going away for good and replaced with a brand new storyline centered around the Disney animated film Princess and the Frog. But today we're really gonna dig a little deeper to find out what that actually involves. Quick roadmap for you. First, we're going to start with a history lesson, talk about why this retheme is something Disney decided to do in the first place. Then we'll jump into the timeline for these changes and the new storyline for the ride, what the retheme's going to look like, the fun extras you'll find outside the ride, and just for fun, a little wish list of things we'd like to see appear from the retheme. Think of it as our own way of blue sky brainstorming. So why the retheme? Well, Splash Mountain has been one of the most popular rides in both Disney World and Disneyland for over 30 years. So what inspired Disney to take an iconic ride and transform it into something different? When the retheme was announced, there was a mixed bag of responses, both from those who were excited to see Tiana and friends finally get their own ride, and those who were sad to see a classic ride they'd grown up with closing down for good. But Bob Weiss, at the time president of Walt Disney Imagineering, shared with D23 why this decision was so important for not just Magic Kingdom, but for all future guests. He stated, "Tiana is a modern, courageous, and empowered woman who pursues her dreams while never losing sight of what's really important. So it's a great story with a strong lead character set against the backdrop of New Orleans and the Louisiana Bayou." The Disney company also shared that they were ready to elevate this log flumes experience to tell a fresh, relevant story. Quote, "The new concept is inclusive, one that all Disney guests can connect with and be inspired by, and it speaks to the diversity of the millions of people who visit the parks each year," unquote. Over the past few years, Disney has been working on several classic attractions to make them more culturally appropriate. We saw changes happen for the original Pirates of the Caribbean auction scene, which introduced us to the kick-butt pirate now known as Red, as well as a few Jungle Cruise scenes to help modernize the storyline and remove ride scenes that hadn't aged very well over the years. Though Splash Mountain's retheme will be much more intensive since the controversial Song of the South storyline is interwoven throughout the entire ride and not just in a scene or two, the mindset behind the decision is very much the same as we've seen in the past. Disney wants to make sure the stories behind their rides stay relevant and inspiring through the generations. All right, official timeline. As of now, this Princess and the Frog retheme did tease its guests for a good long while, and it's still teasing guests as we develop more and more questions about the ride's future in the parks. After we learned about the fate of Splash Mountain, we were all left in limbo about how soon this reimagining would start taking place. It wasn't necessarily a feeling we're unfamiliar with, since Disney does like to announce new experiences with no attached release dates to get us all hyped up and ready for a rousing round of internet discord. They won't announce specific release dates until much later on when they're feeling more confident about the experience's development. However, Josh D'Amaro, chairman of Disney Parks Experiences and Products, threw us a bone in November of 2020, stating that the Splash Mountain retheme would be expedited to ensure that all who visit the Disney company's parks feel welcome. Now, we know that making a brand new ride with new special effects, lighting, animatronics, soundtracks, that takes time. It takes a lot of time. But after D'Amaro mentioned the ride would be expedited, we expected to learn more about the timeline of its release. And after all, it's not a brand new ride. It's still going to be the same log flume with just a different overlay. So the next chunk of info we received about the Princess and the Frog ride didn't happen until August 2021. So nearly a year later, when a video released showing Disney's Imagineering team working on the project in a panel alongside Stella Chase Reese, owner of the New Orleans restaurant which inspired Tiana's story. The panel discussion took place during a research trip to New Orleans to further the goal of digging deep into the culture of New Orleans to tell a story that's as authentic as the region as it is to the characters' stories. So our interest continued to be piqued, but still nothing was said about a potential release date or even if Splash Mountain was going to be closing anytime soon. We even saw Splash Mountain close for a seasonal refurbishment and come back up again, looking a bit shinier. But then the 2022 Essence Festival of Culture, which was held in New Orleans on July 1st to the 3rd, finally revealed what the name of this new Princess and the Frog ride was going to be, as well as its opening timeline. The ride is called Tiana's Bayou Adventure and will be opening late 2024 for both Disney World and Disneyland. Yeah, sorry, we still got a whole lot of waiting to do, but at least we had something to go off of of, and we still do. Later on in 2022, at the beginning of December, we learned about Splash Mountain's official closing date in Disney World, which is January 23rd, 2023. Per the release of this video, we're still not sure when Disneyland's version of the ride will have its last run through. And that could be because this same team of Imagineers will be working on retheming both the Disney World and Disneyland versions of Splash, which we saw happen with Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. So there may not be a need to close Disneyland Splash Mountain as quickly as Disney World. But then again, maybe it will still close shortly after, and we just haven't gotten word of that yet. Everything's kind of up in the air right now for Disneyland. At the moment, what we know for sure about 2023 and on into 2024 is that Frontierland and Critter Country are going to be a whole lot less people-y and way more construction heavy. Will we learn about an exact release date for Tiana's Bayou Adventure this year? It's unlikely. At most, we'll probably learn about what season it'll be released during, and maybe even when Destination D23 happens at Disney's Contemporary Resort on September 8th to the 10th. But it's highly unlikely we'll get anything more specific until 2024. But we'll definitely let you know as soon as we get more info on this project, one way or another. And you can be one of the first to know about any Disney news and updates by signing up for our newsletter. I'll add the sign up link down in the description below, and it's totally free as always. Alright, so here's the storyline. Since you already know that Splash Mountain's going to be re-themed around Princess and the Frog, you can probably gather some intel yourself from that information alone. You'll see Princess Tiana, you'll see Prince Naveen, and you'll see our large, scaly friend Louis as he plays away on his trusty saxophone. Love that guy. But what about the new plot? What's the 411? Well, Tiana's Bayou Adventure is going to drop you back into the Princess and the Frog story where it last left off, after the final kiss. It's actually about a year later. You see, Tiana really wants to bring her community together by hosting a Mardi Gras party during New Orleans carnival season, and what better way to do that than through food? Tiana feels like she owes a lot to her community since she was able to open her dream restaurant, Tiana's Palace, thanks to their continued support. But Tiana realized that the party is missing a key ingredient and she needs help finding it. Disney Imagineers have shared that guests will be active participants coming along with Tiana on her adventure. Now, what about the queue line? Any fun storytelling going on there? Turns out that along with her restaurant, Tiana has also started an employee-owned company called Tiana's Foods, easy enough to remember, where she and her employees work together to make food products and help members of the community become business people, which you'll get to see and learn more about during your time in the queue. So what's going to change? Like I mentioned earlier, this retheme is extensive. There'll be no more Zippity-Doo-Dah soundtrack or villainous fox and bear duo trying to hunt down a poor mischievous Brer Rabbit. Not everything about Splash Mountain is completely going away though. For starters, let's remember that this is a ride retheme, not a brand new ride. That means Imagineers will be building Tiana's Bayou Adventure around the existing water flume structure, similar to what we saw happen over in Epcot when Maelstrom was rethemed to Frozen Ever After. So you'll still get to feel the thrill of that 5-story drop before the grand finale. And if you think you're going to be missing all the different critters that were featured in Splash Mountain, you'll be happy to know new characters on this ride will still have an assortment of musical talents. Imagineer Laura West is the lead designer behind our new wildlife friends, which include a beaver on the drums, an opossum playing bass, a raccoon playing accordion, a turtle with a harmonica, a rabbit on the washboard, and an otter playing the fiddle. Why does this give me Lester's Possum Park vibes, like from the Goofy movie? Okay, now let's talk about the new stuff. Additional ride elements will feature a combination of practical lighting, digital lighting, animatronics, and scenic paint. Disney announced that there's going to be a new mist element in Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which has never been seen before, which sounds like we might be in for a few spookier scenes at some point. The video they showed had a lot of colorful lights shining into the mist, which kind of reminds me of the sort of lights and smoke effects you see while walking Villains Grove during Disney California Adventure's Oogie Boogie Bash Party. So maybe it's a little Dr. Facilier kind of thing, we'll see. But back to the good guys. Tiana will be leading you through this new journey in a fresh, explorer-worthy wardrobe. Tiana's pantsuit is actually a bigger deal than you may think, since it's a pretty progressive statement for the time frame that the ride and movie takes place during, which is in the 1920s. Disney says that this outfit change connects who Tiana was in the movie to who she will be in the future. And you know how Splash Mountain's grand finale used to end at the giant riverboat with all the animals gathering together to bring you one big show-stopping number? Well, how do you feel about a grand finale Mardi Gras style? Artist Sharika Mahdi was hired to create 4 original paintings to inspire the Imagineers working on the attraction. And the painting we got to see during the 2021 panel interview depicts the ride's final scene. This scene is described as one big Mardi Gras party. The colors are vibrant, the style is whimsical, and there are so many characters packed into that single painting. So hate to spoil this for you or anything, but I think we can expect a happy and celebratory worthy ending here. Speaking of inspiring art, at the 2022 D23 Expo, we got to check out a small-scale model of Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which taught us a whole lot more about what we can expect to see from this attraction when it opens up in 2024. Disclaimer, not everything that we saw in the model of Tiana's Bayou Adventure is guaranteed to appear in the real thing. After all, we still have a while before the ride will officially open, and in that time, a lot could change. But did we still scour the model for any possible hint or connection to the movie? Absolutely. Did we question what every single tiny detail could possibly mean? Of course we did. Are some of our predictions probably way off? Maybe, but nonetheless, we think we've discovered some pretty cool details, like a garden of veggies toward the beginning of the ride and a fleur-de-lis symbol above the entrance to the finale, for example. One of the coolest parts of this model was the big wooden water tower with Tiana's Foods, employee-owned, printed across the front. And on top of that tower is a big tiara that looks just like Tiana's tiara from the movie. Did you notice the two little stars to the right of the tiara? Those are likely a nod to Evangeline and Ray. Ray is Tiana's Firefly sidekick in the movie, and the love of Ray's life is a star named Evangeline. And if you catch me sobbing over this tiny detail, no you didn't. You know what other adorable couples we tracked down on this model? We found a couple of frogs perched on a log toward the end of the ride. From what we can see, they look just like Naveen and Tiana in the movie when they were both in their frog form. That makes sense and all, but we have just one question. Why are they frogs again? At the end of the movie, they return to their OG human form after the final kiss. Sorry, another spoiler alert. Unless the story of the ride gets really wild, those two frogs are probably just a nod to the movie. But again, anything could happen. Oh, we also got a teeny tiny peek into the drop portion of the ride when we looked at the opening where the boat comes out before the big drop. You can see a lot of lights and colors inside, much like the glass bottles hanging from the ceiling that you'll see in the movie during Mama Odie's big musical number. And since we're on the subject of music, you should know that music will continue to play an important role in setting each scene, which is why the attraction will feature original music inspired by songs from the film. Disney had previously shared that Jennifer Lewis, the voice behind Mama Odie, will be featured in the rethemed ride. And it's not just Mama Odie who's coming back for an encore performance. Even more of the original voice talents behind the beloved characters from Princess and the Frog will reprise their roles, including Bruno Campos as Prince Naveen, Michael Leon Woolley as Louis, and of course Anika Noni Rose as Princess Tiana. Riders will also hear Zydeco music in the attraction, specifically in the Bayou portion of the ride. Imagineers expressed that Zydeco is a special blend of rhythm and blues that was born in Louisiana. Disney wanted to include this style of music because it brings together the sounds and styles of many cultures. So just to wrap up this section with a nice neat bow, Disney has been hard at work reimagining this ride, but I think the details are all gonna come together to make something really cool. But only time will tell, and now we just gotta wait for more details to come. All right, let's talk extras. Tiana's not just making a statement in her new ride, but around it too. The new store, Eudora's Chic Boutique, featuring Tiana's gourmet secrets, already opened on New Orleans Square at Disneyland back in September of 2022. The store is named for Princess Tiana's mother, and inside the shop you'll find decor and merchandise inspired by New Orleans and Princess and the Frog. And fun fact, outside Tiana's Bayou Adventure, you can find vegetables and spices growing on the side of the mountain. Those very spices are being used to put together Tiana's own line of sauces and spices, which will be sold at Eudora's. I mean, at least metaphorically. I don't think there will be real spices growing on the mountain, but there's like a fake spice area there, at least on the model. Anyway, in the future, you can expect to see the real-life Tiana's Palace enter into the Disneyland scene too. Yep, Disney recently announced that Tiana's Palace restaurant will be replacing the French Market restaurant in New Orleans Square. This new quick service destination is meant to feel like you're walking into Tiana's dream restaurant, brought to life for all of you to experience along with her. The Disney website describes this rethemed restaurant as a setting that will feature elegant fixtures, wrought iron balconies, and that classic genuine New Orleans flair. As far as the menu is concerned, you can't escape those Cajun Southern-style classics. Expect your current favorites from the French Market to still be around, alongside some new and seasonal options too. Food and beverage Imagineers have been spending plenty of time in New Orleans researching for inspo on the decor and menu for Tiana's Palace. Remember those veggies I just mentioned growing on the side of the mountain? Those will also be used in the restaurant for a fresh selection of menu items upon its opening. Imagineers have also spent a lot of time at Dooky Chase's restaurant, which is Stella Chase Reese's restaurant in New Orleans that we talked about earlier, that directly inspired Tiana's story. Imagineers want to get this place just right and make sure that the culinary history of the New Orleans area is translated really well and tastefully for the park's restaurant. The French Market restaurant and its attached Mint Julep bar will be closing on February 17th, 2023 to get renovations underway. But do not panic, this is not the end of the Mint Juleps and the famous Disneyland Mickey beignets. Disney has assured us that the Mint Julep bar will return later this year and will reopen with Tiana's Palace. The Imagineers that we've interviewed previously also, because we did break this news back in September, mentioned to us that they're also trying to get Tiana's Palace restaurant added to Disney World, but we don't have any official announcements on the future of it being on the East Coast too. Speaking of beignets, let's talk about our wish list. Little by little, we learned more about what Tiana's Bayou Adventure is going to be like. We learned about the soundtrack, the story, the inspiration behind it all. But if we were Imagineers, what would we be incorporating into and around this major ride overhaul that we haven't heard much about or anything about yet? First up, a more interactive queue. Currently, we know that the Tiana's Bayou Adventure queue is going to be themed around Tiana's foods, but we don't know much else after that. What I do know, based on the new ride history, is that the physical queue of this ride is going to be long. That's why it'd be nice to have some more immersive elements to keep guests entertained along the way. Splash Mountain doesn't exactly have the most thrilling queue at the moment, and that queue wait can get really hot during the peak of the day. So more interactive elements and way more AC could make waiting for this attraction more bearable and maybe even fun. Also, maybe some future meet and greet opportunities. Since Princess and the Frog is getting its very own ride, popularity for these characters among kids and adults is going to skyrocket. So it only makes sense to have more meet and greet opportunities arise for Princess Tiana, Prince Naveen, maybe even Dr. Facilier. You can meet Princess Tiana at a few locations right now, including Princess Fairy Tale Hall in Magic Kingdom, or out and about around New Orleans Square in Disneyland, same as Naveen and Dr. Facilier, though their appearances do tend to be more sparse. But it'd be nice to have more meet and greet opportunities for these characters around Magic Kingdom's Frontierland and Disneyland's Critter Country. Who knows, maybe they could even get their own meet and greet location around these parts too. While discussing the new details surrounding Tiana's Palace restaurant, the Disney website does note that this quick service is not going to be a character dining location, but they also note that Tiana will still be making her rounds through New Orleans Square, so perhaps we'll still manage to see her pop up a little more frequently after the restaurant's opening later this year. And another wish list item, a natural incorporation into the land. Some critics of the new retheme have expressed concerns about how exactly Tiana's Bayou Adventure is going to fit within the lands it's been placed in. Critter Country in Disneyland is a little easier to understand because you're going to see plenty of animals through the ride, and New Orleans Square is just next door, so that's a decent fit. But Frontierland in Magic Kingdom is a bit more of a stretch for this kind of ride. We don't really have any pre-existing Mardi Gras elements around the Wild Wild West, so there has been talk of this rethemed ride standing out like a sore thumb. But a ride doesn't necessarily have to be a perfect puzzle piece within a land for guests to accept it as an immediate classic. Take Haunted Mansion, for instance. Does it make a whole lot of sense for it to be in Liberty Square in Magic Kingdom, mixed in with the Hall of Presidents, the Liberty Square Riverboat? Not really, but we accept it nonetheless. The creepy mansion on the hill doesn't feel so out of place in this colonial-inspired setting, and I don't think the Bayou will feel as out of place either, especially since we're already used to seeing the ride structure there, thanks to all the years Splash Mountain's been around. That being said, it is nice to see Imagineers work to naturally integrate the land that a ride resides in into its storyline, like we saw happen in Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. Cosmic Rewind became the first intergalactic pavilion in the World Showcase in Epcot, making it a decent fit in the World Discovery area. Something like that to help weave in the Frontierland setting with the Bayou storyline. Now, of course, we were in a briar patch. We were definitely in the American South with Splash Mountain, whereas the rest of Frontierland is most decidedly out west, so it's doable. And of course, more beignets. I'm not just talking about beignets at Tiana's Palace. I'm talking about more grab-and-go options for those sugar powder beauties, period. Disneyland already has quick service beignet options over at the Mint Julep Bar in New Orleans Square, which will be sad to see disappear in February, but thrilled to see reappear later on with Tiana's Palace. But if you want a beignet at Disney World, you gotta hop on a bus or Disney Springs boat and head over to Disney's Port Orleans French Quarter to hit up Scat Cat's Club and Cafe. Since Tiana is known for her mastery in beignet making, I think it's only fair we see more beignet options start appearing around Magic Kingdom for easier access to this sweet goodness. So again, those are just wish list items and we'll see what happens. Imagineers are hard at work creating a ride and eventually restaurant that'll bring a familial feel of New Orleans into the parks. And though we've got a lot of waiting to do before we finally see these projects fulfilled, there's still a whole bunch for us to look forward to in 2023, like a brand new coaster, new nighttime spectaculars, new restaurants. So I think we'll be able to bide our time okay while we're waiting for this new experience to open up, but it's never fun being patient. Now, something we do need to plan for is walking through Frontierland this year and seeing one of the 3 classic mountains down for the count. Good thing we'll still have Big Thunder Mountain in the area, though, we can turn to in our time of need. So those are the latest updates on Splash Mountain's retheme, everyone. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.